When we believe something about ourselves or about anything, we do not necessarily need facts for that thing to come alive. And that is because belief runs our lives. Our beliefs are very powerful. Convictions are very powerful. They rule our life. They determine the reality of our lives. Beliefs are installations, and they are installed by the things we hear, the things we say to ourselves, the things we think about. Eventually, they become what we believe. And when we believe something, we live our lives in that direction. For example, if you take an exam and you have good grades, superb grades, when you come out and you're talking about it, the words, the language we use is such that gives us the accolades, it gives the credit to us other than any outside party. So we say things like, well, I made an A in that course. Oh, I scored 100, I scored 99. But if we scored, let's say, 20 over 100, or we failed a particular course or exam, the language that is commonly used reveals what we believe. So we would say, they gave me an F. They failed me in that course. And subconsciously, what we do not understand that we are saying is, we are actually not taking responsibility for the failure. The same thing goes when tragedy hits in life. We tend to want to blame God or blame the devil or blame some other people. We look for enemies outside of ourselves. But if it's a good thing, if it's something commendable and enviable, we accept the responsibility. Just like in the case of that exam, say, oh, they gave me an F. But if you got an A, oh, I got an A in that course. I scored A. So why don't we say we scored F commonly? That is because we think or we believe that when it is evil, that it comes from an outside force, as somebody else is responsible. But when it is good, we pat ourselves on the back. That's very Adamic. The first man, when the fall happened and God was calling him to account, he shifted the blame to God and to the woman that God gave him. So naturally, that's how people behave. If a tragedy should strike, we would run to God, or for either to blame him or to ask him for help, or we'll blame the devil and then ask God for help from the devil. But the truth about life is such that our beliefs run our lives, good or bad. There's a portion in the scriptures that says, I set before you this day, life or death. Choose life. So life is a choice, death is a choice. The truth is, good or evil, they come from us. So in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, it says, guard your hearts with all diligence. Heart is talking about your affections, and then your words, your thoughts. It says, because out of it are the issues of life. Jesus said it like this, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. We know it's not heart, the organ that pumps blood. So this brings me to, because Job has been the example we've been using since this teaching. Job said in Job chapter 3, it says, for the things which I have greatly feared has come upon me. The thing that I dreaded, that I was afraid of has happened. He said, I was not in safety, neither was I at rest, and I was not quiet, yet trouble came. So let's think about it. The same way Job got into his problem is the same way, the same principles he applied that brought about his destruction are the same principles he applied that brought about his freedom, his deliverance. The Bible says also in the book of Job that the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. So there are several things happening at the background for Job to get to the point, like I was saying in the last video, where he began to pray for his friends. Something had changed inside. Now, the thing that changed inside changed from what he was saying in chapter 3, that he was afraid, that he was in fear, or he was in dread, and that he was not in safety. So Job said, I was not in safety. So he believed that he was in trouble. He had confidence, he had faith that he was not safe, that his kids, his business, Everything about him was in jeopardy. And then he also had the emotional expression of that, because he said he was afraid. Fear is an emotional response. He was afraid. He was afraid, and that did not stop there. He said he was not quiet, so he spoke about it. So Job applied all the principles necessary for attracting that tragedy, and he cooperated with the force of evil and manifested evil. He lost all his children, lost all his business, lost his health. He was at the verge of death, and then eventually, by the mercies of God, he came out of it. But how did he come out of it? He also began to listen to the things that God had to say. God began to narrate several things to him, and then when he got the picture of it, he repented. He said, I had said things I did not understand. I had heard of you, but I didn't get the clear picture. But now I know the truth, so I am sorry for all the things I did. Then he began to pray for his friends. Why was Job praying for his friends? Because his friends also thought in error that God was punishing Job, or that God was punishing Job for his troubles. Commonly, in our world today, the common thoughts or teaching or interpretation that we have of the story of Job was that God was testing Job. God just wanted to prove to the devil that Job would not deny him. But when you do a deep study of the book of Job, an intelligent study of the book of Job, you find out that you will discover that Job was responsible for his troubles. The same way today we are responsible for our troubles or our good in life. Now, this is not taking away the part of God, or the influence of God, or the touch, the hand of God, the part that God plays in the good of our lives, or the part that the evil one plays in the evil that happens to us. What I'm saying in effect is, irrespective of what God has done, what God will do, because truly God has done all that he needs to do to make our life beautiful on earth. So irrespective of all that, every one of us are the determining factor for our success or failure. Just as we need to be deliberate and intentional to apply life's principles to be successful, in the same way we need to be intentional or unintentional to allow the principle of failures and disaster to be applied in our lives. So both ways we are responsible, are the determining factors. So there are things that happen to us, things that happen around us, environmental factors, and all the other factors that may be around us. All of them put together, no matter how much, no matter how heavy, they are all contributing factors. What will determine our success or failure in life is entirely us. We are the sole determining factor for success or failure. Now, let me repeat, I am not removing the grace factor, I'm not removing the fact that God also plays a huge role. Now, the role that God plays is like this. It's like the role that a manufacturer of a video game has already played. Everything is preset. So God has preset everything in his sovereignty. By intelligent design, God did it in such a way that we are responsible for our good or evil in life. And then he went further. He gave us instructor's manual. So he gave us instructions as to how to maximize the product of life or mankind, so that we would always enjoy the good that he has preset for us. So unlike Job, good and evil doesn't come from God. God cannot be tempted with evil. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of light, in whom there is no darkness and there is no shadow of turning. There's not even a variableness with God. So God brings or provides only good. So God has designed life in such a way that we would always enjoy his goodness, his kindness. So that's as much as the role that God plays. Plus, he has given us instruction manual. And then, of course, if you are Christian, you know that we have the Holy Spirit. Now, having all that doesn't automatically translate to success until we apply our will, our choice. Belief is a product of will. Belief is a product of our choice. Do you remember the story of um, Thomas, one of the disciples of Jesus? When Jesus rose from the dead and the news began to spread amongst his disciples, at one point Jesus appeared to the disciples, but Thomas was not there, according to the record in the book of John. When they broke the news to Thomas, Thomas said, I will not believe. He said, I will not believe. So he exercised his right of choice, his will. He said, unless I see this and that and the other, I will not believe. So when Thomas saw, he said, then he fell down to his feet and proclaimed Jesus as Lord and God. So that is not unique to Thomas. We choose to either believe or not believe based on what we have been hearing, what we have accepted as truth. So belief is a choice. Is a choice we must be deliberate about, be wise about. So it is better for you to believe that you are safe in the hands of God. It is better for you to believe that you are favored, that life is responding to you positively. It is for your good for you to believe that God is not against you, because God truly is not against you. God is for you. Yes, there are evil forces. There are also good forces. And the good forces are much more than the evil forces. They outnumber them. So there are more that be for you than against you. That's what Elisha said to his servant. Elisha believed differently. And because he believed differently, the outcome for him was victory, was resounding victory, was freedom, was success. That's exactly how freedom, success, evil or good happens for anybody on this earth. This is not about religion. This is about how life functions. These are the principles of life. We either attract and manifest evil or good by choice. So whether you are ignorant of the principles or not is irrelevant. It works. It keeps working. If you do not actively, deliberately, intentionally pursue and believe God, you have chosen the other side. That's how it is. There's no vacuum. There's no neutral ground. So we must be intentional about believing truth, about believing good, and about saying and speaking good. Because the truth about the matter is, once you believe, the other things follow easily. It is easy for you to say it. So if you want to really gauge or understand what you believe, observe the words that you speak. So our beliefs are very, very powerful. They run our life. They determine our reality. So it's not the things that happen around us in our environment or the environment that we grow up in. It is what we believe. And so nobody is a victim of another person per se. People are victims of their choices. Job was victim of his beliefs. So if we want to be on the side of God and have his power and his grace and his goodness to become our physical expression, to manifest in our lives, the responsibility, the duty is on us to engage the principles that makes that happen. If we do not deliberately, intentionally engage that, what we are doing is we are choosing the other side of evil. So what Job did was Job activated the laws of life or death against himself in the wrong direction. He had confidence in death. Job believed that he was not in safety. He believed that his kids were going to die. He believed that he might lose everything that he owned. And because he believed it, it became a strong force, magnetic force for those events or those tragedy, or for the tragedy that befell him. And it happened. When he got wind of the truth, he believed otherwise. He had confidence in the goodness of God. He trusted in the goodness of God so much so that he began to pray for his friends. What sort of prayer do you think he was praying? That his friends would not also become like him, experience the things he experienced because of what he believed wrongly, because his friends also believed that, there's a sovereign king, a sovereign God, the creator of the universe, who had a choice or a right to do anything he wants to do, good or bad. That sort of belief, that particular belief is evil, is satanic. Don't join that camp. God is sovereign. God is not a tyrant. God is not a bully. His sovereignty has not taken away our choice. As a matter of fact, his sovereignty gave us choice to determine our fate in life. That's how good God is. So guys, we'll continue in our next video talking about things in this light, getting into attraction, vibration, and how we can change our lives by our beliefs. Thank you for listening. God bless you.